Hey y'all, today I'm in Trigg County, Kentucky, near Fenton, to share the tragic story of a drowning that occurred on the Tennessee River in 1926. I was reading the fall winter issue of the old Between the Rivers magazine from 2001, and I saw this story and I thought that it should be documented with a video. The article was written by Janice Downs Smither. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. Two of the towns mentioned in this article are now under the water of Kentucky Lake, which the Tennessee River flows through. Newburgh and Turnertown were submerged when the dam was built in 1944. You may have heard of Newburgh, though, if you've heard of Cemetery Island, as it's known. It's a cemetery in the middle of the lake. This was once the Newburgh Cemetery with 28 graves. 23 were moved with the dam project, but one tall headstone was left, and it still remains in the middle of Kentucky Lake. You can see it and get to it by boat when the lake is at winter pool and the water level is down. The grave is that of John Young Whaley, born 1862, died 1907 at age 44. After John's passing, his wife Lena remarried in 1909 and moved to Colorado. When given the choice in 1941, she chose to leave John's remains in the flood zone, along with their two young children, an infant and a 2-year-old, and her first husband as well, Joseph F. Williams. Their headstones are not visible. This great shot from Paducah drone shows that it is literally in the middle of the lake, and Cemetery Island is the only remnant remaining of Newburgh, Kentucky. But let's get into the story of Oval Birdsong and Lurleen Turner, and I'll read you the magazine article. Tragedy on the 4th of July. Buried in the Turner Cemetery, located off Highway 68 between the rivers, are Lurleen Turner, age 18 at the time of her death, and her future husband-to-be, Oval Birdsong, age 18 also. They were in a boat crossing the Tennessee River. Two other men, Shelley Morrison and Willard Joyce, were with them. It was the 4th of July, 1926, and families were celebrating the holiday. They were going across to the other shore of the river to Newburgh, Kentucky. A wave came up and capsized the boat. Lurleen Turner and Shelley Morrison were drowned. Willard Joyce survived. Footprints were found later on the sand on the shore of the river, footprints of Oval Birdsong. The footprints were of a shoe print and a barefoot print. When his body was found, Oval had one shoe on and one shoe off. Apparently, he at first had made it to shore, but he went back into the water to find his fiancée, Lurleen Turner. He must have drowned while trying to rescue her. They were to be married the next week. They were buried in separate caskets in the same grave. Oval was born May 11, 1908, and died July 3, 1926. Lurleen was born January 13th and died July 3, 1926. Their epitaph reads, "They were the sunshine of their homes." You can tell they share the same grave because their footstones are so close together. Some newspaper articles had their names incorrect, and the story varies a little bit, but it says, "Two boys died with a girl they tried to save, while a third swam to shore shortly after midnight, a few minutes after their motorboat dipped into the water and overturned in the Tennessee River. Miss Lurleen Turner, Oval Birdsong, and Shelley Morrison." The youth who swam out is Willard Joyce. All reside in the western section of Trigg County. The three boys and the girl were returning from a picnic. Their motorboat was going so fast, however, that it struck a small wave, ducked under the water, and threw the occupants into the water. The boys were able to swim, but the girl couldn't. They went for her, got to her, but the three went down together. I'm not sure who did the illustration for the article. I can't make out the signature. but it shows the scene on the river that night. The moon is out, the fireworks, and the footprints on the shore, coming in and going back out again. The other young man who drowned trying to help save Lurleen, Shelley Morrison, is buried at the Jenny Ridge Cemetery. And I'll see if I can try to find his headstone. His headstone reads, Shelley, son of Joe and Allie Morrison, born March 27, 1906, died July 3, 1926. He was only 20 years old. He's buried next to his parents, Joe Morrison, and his mother, Allie Morrison. This was such a tragedy for these three young people and their family and friends. Now back to the Turner Cemetery. The article goes on to read, the land for Turner Cemetery was donated by a family named English, and it was first named the English Cemetery. Later, the name was changed to Turner. There was not a church connected to the cemetery. Most of the people buried there were Turners or connected to them. At one time, there was a community called Turnertown close to the area where the cemetery is located. The land where the community was located was acquired by Tennessee Valley Authority in the late 1930s to form Kentucky Lake. The land of the cemetery was acquired in 1965 for the land between the lakes. There are many people buried there, each with their own stories that do not need to be forgotten. Well said, Janice, and I will try to continue to tell these stories. Thanks so much for watching, y'all, and see you in the next one.